Good morning, everyone. So this video is probably how you have seen Unreal Engine being used in broadcast in the past. But this is not what this presentation is about. As you may have caught in the title, we're talking about live news. You did not see much live news in there, right? You saw sports, you saw entertainment, you saw AR graphics, virtual graphics. Unreal Engine over the past years have essentially become the gold standard in broadcast. It's used everywhere. Everybody's using it. That's kind of old news in essence. You have to look at previous Unreal Fest presentations if you want to see more about that. We're here to show you something new. We're here to present a customer, TV2 Fyn, which is a regional broadcaster in Denmark, relatively small, that essentially said, can we use Unreal Engine for all of our graphics need for live news? And to my knowledge, has not really been done in the past. My name is BK. I represent a small company called Erizos that develop essentially a workflow solution to drive the Unreal Engine in a linear broadcast. Today, we're going to learn about TV2 Fyn, and I have with me here Bjarke. Bjarke will introduce himself, but he works for a small company. He owns a company called Milk and Honey that essentially worked with TV2 Fyn to implement this. So we're going to learn a lot about what that took, what went into it, how to do it, some of the lessons learned. But I think maybe before we dig into the how, we should try to figure out a little bit about the why. Why did they want to do this? They had a working system. Why did they want to go all in on Unreal Engine? So I don't think there's anybody better to explain this to us than TV2 Fyn themselves. So please welcome here Jonas from TV2 Fyn, who will essentially explain to us a little bit about the rationale and the strategy, and also some of their plans and visions for the future.
Hi, my name is Jonas Mattsson, and I'm the head of technology and production at TV2 Fyn. I would like to briefly share a bit of about our vision for this project, so welcome. Before we dive into the project, let me briefly introduce TV2 Fyn. We are a publicly funded regional media house created to ensure strong local journalism by the people of Fyn for the people of Fyn in Denmark. We are around 130 colleagues based in Odense, the largest city in this region. Traditionally, we have been a broadcast-focused newsroom producing 4 daily TV news shows that reaches around 40 to 50 viewers on average. But today, just like any other media organization, our work has expanded far beyond television. We publish news and stories around the clock on our website, tv2fyn.dk, and on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Because for us, it's simple. We need to be where the people of Fyn are. Our existence depends on people choosing to engage with our journalism.
I just need to add one little thing in there. Now, granted, TV2 Fyn is a local Danish broadcaster. In Denmark, it's not the most populous country on the planet. However, they do have a bit more than 30 to 40 viewers. So we're missing a word there. About 30 to 40,000 daily viewers are viewing their content.
Previously here at TV2 Fyn, we had a graphics platform that only produced visuals for our television broadcasts. It did the job well, but we quickly realized the limitations. We couldn't really see the potential for developing platform-neutral graphics, and on top of that, it was difficult to find developers and designers locally who had strong knowledge of the product. So we set ourselves a new ambition to build a graphics platform that was independent of our journalistic platforms, but still able to support and strengthen everything we published. For us, flexibility and scalability were key. The new system needed to deliver to all of TV2 Fyn's journalistic and digital platforms without adding extra costs or requiring more resources. And just as importantly, it had to integrate smoothly with our existing systems and be compatible with our other production tools. That way, we could create a smarter and more efficient workflow across teams and areas of expertise. How did the idea actually come about? Well, back in December 2019, Rasmus Flodgaard, our head director, attended the Unreal Academy in London. That experience opened up a whole new world. After seeing what Unreal Engine was capable of, he began to wonder, how could we possibly take advantage of all those possibilities within our world of journalistic video? That was the starting point. The big question became, how can we integrate gaming technology into an automated broadcast environment? From there, the idea grew. To build a graphics platform powered by Unreal Engine, one that would allow us to use graphics seamlessly across both television and digital platforms, and importantly, without requiring more resources than we already had. But how do we do that in the best possible way? At the same time, the everyday workflow for our users had to remain flexible and simple based on templates and automation. As you know by now, we are a relatively small media house. We have to be very precise in how we prioritize our resources. It was clear to us from the very beginning that we could not take on this major task alone. Integrating an Unreal Engine-based graphics platform into our existing newsroom system Saga running on Mozart automation. That left us with two major tasks. First, to create a platform built on Unreal Engine, and second, to integrate that platform into our systems in such a way that our users would gain a powerful tool that also worked in everyday production. So we needed strong partners with knowledge of Unreal Engine, graphics platform development, and integration with newsroom systems. And that's why we teamed up with Milk and Honey and Erizos. Together, we agreed to start with the foundation, a template-based automated graphics system for broadcast use.
Good. All right, so now we kind of know a little bit about the why. So the future, being agnostic and being able to publish not only on linear broadcast, but also on digital media, left them essentially looking for the future solution. And Bjarke, you worked very, very closely with them on implementing this. So I will give the word to you, introducing yourself, but also telling us a little bit about what it took.
Thank you, PK, and good morning, everyone. It's nice to be here. As mentioned, I'm Bjarke, and I have a small business in Denmark providing solutions for Unreal Engine for various customers, mostly non-game related, but mostly in the media and entertainment business. I have some images here of what I've just recently been doing with the good people at Blast sitting right here, and in collaboration with Epic Games to do their Fortnite and Rocket League esports competitive series broadcasts and arena events. And I've also, over the last decade, been doing lots of other sports and lots of elections and regular news as well. And also, I was an early user of the Avalanche project, where we initially started having a test project with the Fortnite broadcast and providing feedback, and so that Epic could evolve this into the product it is today. So, and I've been following it, of course, closely ever since. Other than that, I see myself as fairly fluent in a lot of aspects of Unreal Engine, and always trying to push the limit of the engine of what it can do. So, and in this project, as mentioned, this hasn't really been seen before, integrating it with these workflow systems. So that was a very, very exciting project for me to engage in. And yeah, I move on here. So let's dive into the project. So what you see here is the studio, and the environment down there is, of course, a newsroom with a lot of journalists working on the story that's going to be told in the evening news. There's both journalists working on the story, there's editors working on editing clips for the story, and there's producers making the broadcast ready for production. And in all that, and a shared tool for all of them is the Erizos Studio templates inside the newsroom system. So journalists can prepare graphics, and then an operator can play them out later, and everyone can work on them collaboratively. And of course, this is a system that runs every day, and one of the reasons I can be here is that it is made stable, and they can handle it on an everyday basis. And as you saw before, the graphics, they are very 2D and Scandinavian style, very very clean and with smooth and fast transitions so that they can communicate the stories as fast as possible. There's not much 3D in this. Of course, there's also AR graphics also running on Unreal Engine. That's what we're working on right now. But for this, it is very 2D and clean transitions. And as Jonas mentioned, one of the reasons to make this move was to move into a suite with great support and a great user base. And that has the continuous development in these areas, which Unreal Engine has. And another thing is, of course, being in Unreal Engine, there's more possibilities for the designer to actually be in the suite that's going to play out the graphics. And that has traditionally been an issue in doing broadcast news, that the designers actually want to see the final output when they are building their graphics. They don't want to deliver something very, very clean, very, very good looking into an integrator that sort of does it 75%. They want the full implementation. So iterate on this. What we did usually was people were working in Cinema or Adobe After Effects and delivering renders of this is how it's going to look, and then it should be integrated into a real-time playout system like Visity and ROS and so forth. But for this, we are moving more and more over to Unreal Engine and having the artists in there. And then having these additional software packages as Cinema, as Adobe After Effects and Blender as well, to act as supporting packages that are then delivering into Unreal Engine, and then the final composite is done in there where it's also played out. So what you see is what you get when you're working with the graphics. And that also, there's lots of advantages of this. For example, when we want to change something, we do it directly in there, and it's immediately pushed to engines. So on the recent project with Blast, we had changes that were on air like 20 seconds after they were actually done on several engines. So, but the solution for Fyn was, here's like a very, very high level overview. There's of course lots of small blocks in each of all these, but essentially the artists and the technical designers are working in Unreal Engine on the project, and whenever they have some changes they want to submit to the running show, they can work through Erizos Creative Hub, which is a much more easy way to handle project versioning, and is essentially a simple version control system that can push to all of the engines immediately. And Creative Hub talks with Erizos Studio, which is the heart of the system essentially, and that Erizos Studio is serving templates to the newsroom, to all of the journalists and to the producers, so they can fill out that data, they can put in the images and the videos and the texts, and that will then get saved in a rundown that is then pushed to the automation system that is playing out the whole show. It is of course controlling clips, it's controlling graphics and all sorts of things. And that goes through the Erizos server that then communicates to all of the engines. I believe there's like 5 or 6 engines in production in this show. Yeah, so the key components here is of course Erizos handling the communication, and then all the graphics are built in UMG right now. And that was chosen when we started this project because it is very lightweight and it's fast and it's modular. We can reuse components across the graphics package. If we make a cool animation, it's easy to, or a cool element, we can easily place that on other graphics and reuse it with data as well. And the way I built it was that I was very focused on having a clean system that can run all the time, so that memory doesn't clutter up or it starts getting slower as you do more and more. So everything is being spawned as dynamic actors, where the actor can have a task. That could be show a graphic, or it could be update some global variables that all the graphics are talking into, or it could be clear an output, or it could be do all sorts of tasks. But whenever that actor is then done with its task, it destroys itself and cleans up nicely, so we have a clean slate to work on all the time. And then, of course, one of the big things in broadcast graphics is transition logic, which is essentially the idea of graphics acting differently depending on what is already on. And for that, we did the transition logic inside blueprints, and we also utilized the inbuilt transition logic with Erizos that comes with Erizos. But for this, it was a quite complex setup. It probably didn't look too complex when you saw it here, but when you saw the lower third, it can contain a lot of different elements, and it has different animations in compared to depending on what graphic is actually being shown. So, and what you also saw was the video wall that Jonas had behind him. That's also controlled by Erizos and played out by Unreal Engine. And here you see a little screenshot of the template. I'm gonna go into that a little bit. I prepared a little video where I highlighted all the elements coming from Unreal Engine, so you can see what is playing out what. And after that, I'm gonna talk a little bit about this LED screen workflow that the operators and the journalists can work with on a daily basis. So here you see the wall, the loop there, it's from Unreal. All the wipes are from Unreal. So, and of course, the lower third running smoothly. This can also transition with other content, bigger headlines and stuff like that. As you see here, headline coming in, zooming into or scaling to be smaller. And here we have the wipes again, and there we have the wall setup. So this wall setup is quite advanced. You can have image slideshows. We can place it differently on the left, middle, and the right side, and it's all tied together with like a circular wipe that essentially animates all content in and zooms it in. So we can have images, as you see here, 3 images shown in Erizos. And we can go full screen if we want to do that. We can also have live video. We can have video clips as well. Gonna go into that as well. And since the screen isn't 16:9, it's more wide. So we sort of we made a little crop tool that can actually position the video with a thumbnail so that they can actually see, okay, the video is gonna look like this in the broadcast. So, and furthermore, we also did an integration where a graphic artist could deliver a video with steps. So they're just delivering some time codes and a video. So it pauses on a certain time code and then it can continue. And this is all come to life in dialogue with the customer, where they say, oh, we also want to do this. Oh, can we do this? And then when we did this, then oh, we also want to show a live video at some random time. All right, cool. We just implement adding an asterisk to a time code. Boom, then it opens up a live video input, because that was what they wanted and that was what enhanced their storytelling the best. So this is quite advanced and was quite fun to create. And the last time I presented at Unreal Fest, I got this question. And that was afterwards, are you crazy? You did all of this in UMG? And yeah, probably I am, but this was really the right tool for this task, since it had to move this fast. And as I say, iterations and changes were really, really fast. And it was flexible and it was dynamic in terms of scaling. So yeah, all this was done in UMG. And for now, of course, there is also talks about adding Rive graphics as well from the web department. They're working a lot with that so that we can more integrate their work into the daily broadcasts, and which UMG also works good with the Rive implementation. So, but I'm gonna talk a little bit about the challenges. So you would think that working with an automation system is more or less working with an operator who doesn't sleep, which is not entirely correct, because this automation system, it can send commands at the same time, commands that are essentially not in sync with each other. So it can say this graphic has to go in, and this graphic has to go in and out at the same time, with only a few milliseconds in between, which an operator would never do. They would follow the flow of the broadcast. So for making this work with the automation system, it had to be built very, very robust, encountering and making sure that all these edge cases weren't gonna break the show, which was quite a bit of a challenge, which we really didn't expect when going into this. But now it runs, and it is very, very stable. And also interlaced signals, which is also something from the past, which was a little bit of an issue to work with inside Unreal Engine. Fortunately, there has been recent updates to that. So we made it work, but honestly, would be nice to just everyone agree we move to progressive. And of course, communication about what should this graphic actually do. It's not, you don't just have like, okay, a screenshot, this is what it should look like. No, how should it be expandable in the future? What should happen when other graphics goes in? How should they affect each other? Having a good and thorough dialogue on those elements is really, really key to a good implementation. We did have some elements we had to sort of restructure, start from scratch, if it also wanted to do that, because it was, we didn't have that dialogue early enough. So, and also this way of handling projects, which was also okay. How we initially started thinking about using Perforce and then syncing the project through Erizos Studio. But for the end users, Perforce is a quite hard workflow for a designer to work with. That's why fortunately, you released the Creative Hub during the project, and that sort of solved that problem, because it is very, very easy to use version control. And yeah, there was also some pleasant surprises, of course, working with this, as I guess a lot of you have experienced with Unreal. But yeah, it really runs stable for a long time. And when I started working with Unreal, everybody said, oh, it's so unstable, it crashes all the time. And honestly, yeah, you can do that. But there's usually a reason for it to crash. And for this, it has really been running stable for a very, very long period. And then, since this is all 2D and a lot of the graphics are very are designed to be scalable, we started using the Material UI Lab, which is on Fab, which is a great piece of collection of shaders, which can help doing primitive shapes and a lot of animations, and really helped us to do this in a SVG-like way, so that we can scale our graphics, and we don't have to think about the resolution of the output and re-rendering all that. We actually did the background of the wall, the loop with all these bars. We did that in shaders, which was a really nice way of working with it, and also added much more dynamic possibilities to actually change the stuff as we go along. And then also this, I said it before, this thing about quick changes inside UMG, it is really fast to develop with. And of course, it is, since I know it's not the primary purpose of UMG to do live news, but and there is some enhancements that could be made to make the workflow much easier. But we worked around it, and the development, as I said, was really fast. And also, another point I want to make is when you work with UMG, you have the blueprint script layer where you can do a lot of stuff. And also working with dynamic actors, we have blueprints, and we can handle all kinds of situations, all kinds of edge cases by just debugging inside blueprints and say, okay, if this is the case, then we're going to handle it this way. So it is extremely flexible in terms of making this run very smoothly. And it also gives us a good foundation to work with Unreal's other tools, like the materials and other components that are being exposed in blueprints.
Cool. Thank you, Bjarke. So, a little bit about how it was done.
Yeah.
Let's take a switch over back to TV2 Fyn and kind of hear from them. Bjarke is obviously a little biased. He wants to sell you the next project. But let's hear from them. Where are they now? Phase 1 is sort of complete. And what does that entail? And where are they going now? So let's just hear from you, Jonas.
As I mentioned earlier, we made a conscious decision to divide the project into phases. The first phase was all about getting our automated template-based TV graphics flow up and running, achieving operational stability and making sure it actually made life easier for our users in their daily work. We are now very close to reaching that goal. The feedback from our users has been very positive, which makes us confident and ready to move into phase 2 at the beginning of the new year. In November, we will have the municipal elections here in Denmark. As a regional news media outlet, TV2 Fyn covers this extensively. For that event, we will of course build our graphics and our elections results systems on top of Erizos and Unreal Engine. Looking ahead, the next steps in our plan to realize our graphics ambitions include implementing AR graphics in our TV news coverage. And beyond that, we also have big ambitions for using the platform in our digital video strategy, especially when it comes to vertical 9:16 video, which will be a strong focus for us in the future.
All right. So this presentation has, in a way, been a little bit like a broadcast, okay? So far, we've had, a linear rundown that we've stepped through, and we've done some voiceovers, and we played some videos. And then, as you can see, we're heading into like an unplanned segment where we're breaking news, essentially. It's a little bit, honestly, embarrassing. Because both me and Bjarke are out there every day talking to broadcaster and potential customers, explaining to them that there is a future, there is an alternative. But we're standing here today and we're using legacy products for essentially a broadcast, which I think we both promise you will not happen again. So if we do come back, we're going to do it in Unreal.
Absolutely.
But why did we do that? Time. And that's the same answer we get everywhere else. We don't have the time. We don't have the time to change. And change is hard. And it is hard. But it's possible, which I think this project proves, that it is possible to make a fairly significant change to the organization and to how you work, where you can open up these opportunities, where you can explore how you can actually create content that is for different audiences and different platforms without having to learn and use completely different tools.
Yeah.
I'll let you do a little show and tell of what you essentially do in Unreal to make all this possible.
Yes, of course. I had the question many times. How do you do it? I mean, whenever I open UMG, it's hard to approach to get to this product. So I'm just gonna show a little bit of how you can do like the simple headline that you saw animating in the red headline that was big, and then it scaled down to be like a trumpet on the topic bar. So I really wanted to just show how I would approach that task. So let me just do like this. And as I said, this is widgets. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna exemplify how to do just the graphic parts of it. So I'm just gonna make a new graphic here. Sorry, like this. And for this is gonna exist in a output that's going to be 1920 by 1080. So I'm just going to make this, and of course, I'm sure there's much clever ways to do this, but this is just an example of how I would do it. That's the good thing about Unreal, you're always learning. So here we have our screen, which is 1920 by 1080, and essentially we wanted a background and a text that scales with it. So we're going to add a background here. Here we have like a white background, and we're going to let's make that red, like this. And we're gonna add some text. And the way I'm doing it here, I'm childing the text to the background so that we can say, okay, the background has to size to its content. So now we have a dynamic background very, very easily. So I'm just gonna change this to, this is Unreal. Whoops. Okay, so far so good. And we wanted it positioned in the lower left corner of it. So we anchor it down there. And this is, now we're getting somewhere. Now we have it placed correctly, we have the correct color, but we needed to add a something on the right side that sort of spans the whole screen. So I'm just gonna add another border here. Oh wait, first I'm gonna wrap this with a horizontal wrapper that is essentially aligning all the elements below it in a horizontal alignment. So here we have our horizontal box, which should span, wait, I'm just gonna add some more colors. And this is, now we're gonna keep this white so you can see what happens. So this is going to fill the rest of this box. So here we have our content, and this will fill the rest of the box. The box is currently only this size, because that's the size of the content. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna make it span over here. So now you see the white box is extending. Let me just go like this. Like this. So here we have our box over here. But now everything should scale with the text. So if I'm gonna, this text was much larger. So if I'm gonna do like this, you see this border scales with the text and this background as well. So now everything is actually starting to have the right size. And here I'm also gonna make the rest of the border red and just gonna add some padding to the text so that there's some space here. So now we have this part here that we essentially want to reveal everything and we want to scale this in. And this adapts its size from this text. So if I do like this, you see this one grows smaller. Okay, so that's just what we want. And this one, how to scale this, we essentially just do a transform. First we say that it has to be anchored on the left side, and we scale this from 0 to 1. And 1 will always be on the edge, since it is scaling proportionally with its parent, which is really nice. And that's essentially, and then I can at the same time add a scale component to the text, and then I can animate those two elements at the same time. So if I scale, let me go into a quick animation. Oops. Like this. Scroll this in. Oh wait, we have to start with actually revealing this text. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say that this canvas here, it will clip its content so that we can do a wipe in. And let me just dock this like this. So we animate this, and we're gonna animate its transform. Oh wait, we're gonna animate its canvas panel so that there we go. So this one goes right now it's 1920. So we're gonna say it's 0 on 0, 0. Let me add this to 50. So in half a second in, we set a keyframe, and here it animates in like this. Of course, we can set the spline curve as we want, and one of the exciting things about the recent 5.7 is that it's going to this UMG and also the regular sequence is going to get this spline curve tool from Motion Design adapted across the whole package. So that is something I'm really looking forward to. And then here, then we can just have this stay on for like half a second, and then we will have to scale this little border here, which is, we add this to our animation, and we do a scale on the transform, and we go from x1 to 0. So now it goes like this. And then at the same time here, we will then scale our text. And then we are almost there. And here we're gonna, I have to set this to scale by a user specified variable. And we scale from 1 to, let's say, a half. Boom. Then I just have to make this go from the start like this. And then we have it. So, and then we can continue, of course, with this animating stuff up and do all kinds of things. This is just a quick example of how we can make an easy, flexible, dynamic component animate inside UMG.
Brilliant. I think we have to wrap it up, don't we? Thank you very much for your attention.